I needed a dust-free palm sander. So I fabricated an adapter to go from my shop vac hose to my palm sander, and in this video I'll show you how I did it. So what I have for making an adapter is I have a small shop vac hose that I need to connect from the shop vac hose to the adapter itself. And you know, I've got one of these small PVC hose bibs. I was thinking of trying to use that maybe and making a threaded adapter, but you know, it shrinks the size of the port down so much, you know, in comparison to size. But then, you know, as I start looking, the other end of the hose is a lot smaller anyway. I mean, it's about the same size as that. So, you know, this is going to be the restriction for the shop vac airflow. But I would feel better trying to make something that this could fit into to adapt from the size of the hose to the output port of the sander. So the 1.5-inch coupler is a little bit too big for that to fit, and the 1.5-inch pipe is awful close, but just a little bit too small. I mean, if I really crowded, I could get it in there. That could make an adapter that would plug in, you know, much the way that two pieces for a shop vac connect together, right? So I think that's what I'm going to shoot for, is maybe I can open this up just a little bit, but make an adapter that would go on to the hose and slip in. So I'm looking at trying to make something this size that would be on the output port of the sander. And then the next thing that I want to look at is I probably don't want to make it so that it comes straight out this way. If I do, then the hose is going to be wanting to come straight out this way, and that might be a little bit hard to hang on to. It would be a lot nicer if it came up off of the sander in this direction. So then, you know, I need to measure up the outside diameter of this. I need to model this section of the sander and kind of know from, you know, what the size is of this part and how it is in relation to this. And more critical, I need to know exactly what the size of the port is itself, so that I can design something that will slip right over this and adapt it to this size. And I think I'm going to put it off to an angle kind of like that right there, just so that my hose, when it's plugged into it, makes it easy. I can hang on to it to sand. It'll just make a nice adapter for the palm sander, so that I can do sanding on anything, not just drywall, but any sawdust or any dust that comes off of the sander. Hopefully will get pulled through the port and go on down to the dust separation system. So we'll get to measuring and we'll get to designing. So I'm going to get started modeling up my little palm sander and be able to model up the vacuum adapter that I'm going to build for it. So I need to make it so that it will interface with this end of the sander. So before I can get modeling the actual adapter, I need to model this upper portion of the palm sander. I've taken all the necessary measurements and jotted them down on the image right here. And then the critical measurements for the port on the sander itself is right here, and all of the critical measurements. We need to make sure that the adapter will fit over the outside of the port on the sander, and that the direction that the hose comes off will miss where the power cord comes out of the sander. So we'll be using these as a reference. Alright, so now we're in Design Spark. We're going to start a new design. So File, New Design. And I'm going to start off with the base of the sander itself. So we'll just open up a hole here, and this was 3.54 inches. So to keep this video moving along, I'm going to speed up the design and modeling of the sander itself. There is a card for step-by-step process of going through and modeling up this part. You can check that video out, but in the meantime, we're going through and making this as quickly as we can here and designing up the power and where the vacuum connects and the base of the unit. Alright, so what I've got here is the sander and the port, the vacuum port, in our new design. I imported the sander into this new design and changed the name of the design to vacuum adapter. And so the easiest way that we're going to get what we need for sizes and everything is to go ahead and import the PVC coupler that we were working with. And I'm going to move it around just a little bit so we can kind of get it aligned the way we want it to be. And just like before, I'm speeding up the design process for us to keep this video moving along. There is a link to the original video of designing the adapter that goes step by step through it. It's quite lengthy, and figured it would be a little bit too long to incorporate here. The important thing is just to show that I'm using the faces of the PVC coupler and of the sander vacuum port to start with to make the design for the adapter, the vacuum adapter. After I get the components together where I want the sizes and shapes to be, I can then save the new adapter design in a new format, and then I export that design in an STL file that I can then use to import into my Cura software. And so the STL file and the Cura software basically take the 3D file and slice it up and create the file for driving the 3D printer to make the part. And I will rotate the part around and go through the different slice settings and see which way would be the best to orient the part and how the best way is to go about manufacturing the part on the 3D printer. I think we're going to go with that one right there. So we're going to save it to removable drive. And next we're going to get the printer up and running and get this thing going, and then we'll have it first thing tomorrow morning. Hey, it looks like our part came out pretty good. So last night before I went to bed, I got our file loaded up onto the little TF card, got it onto the 3D printer and started the job, made sure it was running good, and then off to bed I went. This morning, here it is. It looks like it came out pretty good. Let's pull it off of the print bed and let's test it and see if it fits. I wanted to show you this really quick. My indicator for whether or not a print is going to fail right off the bat is as soon as it starts printing on my particular machine, I go ahead and try to pull the little strip off where it is clearing the nozzle out. And then I also really, after it runs its first 3 or 4 rolls around, I look at the shape and the size of the print. So you can see in this case where the material was starting, it's not nice and flat and laid down, so, and the little strip that it makes came off really easy. So I knew right away that my print bed height wasn't correct. So you can see the very first layer that it puts down, if it is not really adhered well to your print bed, then there's no point in continuing and having the part come loose from the print bed when you're halfway through a 10 or 12 hour print. Right, so this one here, we printed the support material to the bottom of it. That should come off fairly easy. We can take that little spatula tool that they send with the machine and see if that can help pry it off. So there'll be a little bit of cleanup from that part on there, but you can see that it just barely touches the bottom side of that. Then we've got to try and get this material out from the inside here. Some other tools that you can use for helping remove the support material from inside your parts are needle nose pliers. It looks like all of that is coming out really easy. There's a little bit of material on the bottom of this that needs cleaned out. And that's where these knives come in really handy, because you can open them way up and have a real long blade to get in. Now it's time for the moment of truth. We'll see if our PVC fits in. It's awful close, not quite. And let's see if the other side fits. Hey, that part fits right on really well. So where this pipe won't quite fit into our part, we can use that same trick that we used to change the size of our PVC part to also edit our 3D print. Okay, so we're going to modify the shape of our 3D part just a little bit so that we know that our PVC pipe will fit in there. It will probably go if I really force it, but I'd rather not. So we're going to kick on our heat gun, heat this part up just a little bit, and open it up. Okay, you can see that it's malleable. We're going to put our part in there. And that's it. We're going to let that cool off. When I tried to force this part in there before I heated it up, I heard it crack. And so after I heated it and got it put together, I see that my part failed, and it failed right on the seam between the layers of the part. So, you know, this part was made in this shape or in this orientation like this. So all of the layers go across this way, and that is the weak direction of the 3D print. So as I see inside of here, that is going to separate and going to leak. So I have two choices. I can either change the orientation and reprint the part, or I can put a clamp around the outside of this just to make sure that it holds together good. Other than that, the part looks like it fits really well. I think this is going to work really well for testing, at least. Get this part all together and on here. And in the end, this is going to end up coming off of there, something like that right there. So one of my little pack rat things is that when I have support material, I have a Ziploc bag that I keep quite a bit of that material around. When I have a nice support that is printed, I like to hang on to those pieces. And the only reason why I hang on to them is because then it gives me an idea of how strong some shapes are, or how thick the walls are, and what kind of strength you get out of those parts. Even on stuff that has like a failed print. You know, I hang on to a failed print just to see how hard it is to break it, where it fails on the inside. And then, you know, I can measure this and see, oh yeah, that's a super strong part. And it kind of gives me a better understanding of the settings of the printer, the settings of my slicer software, the Cura software. And then it lets me know that when I do certain settings or I make certain wall thicknesses, that it has a better chance of surviving, or how strong the part is really going to be. So we got it all together. I've done a couple jobs with it, and it works great. So I was a little bit skeptical when I built this thing, because I was unsure if it was going to throw dust out the sides, or if it was going to be able to pull all of the dust from the sanding in through into the shop vac. And I'm happy to say the thing works flawless. So I've done a couple jobs with it. I've sanded some wood and everything, but more importantly, I've done 2 drywall jobs with it. One of them I was doing the backsplash, and the other one I was tiling around a fireplace where I had to take off all of the texture from the original drywall. And it would have been a very messy job, but perfectly clean using this new palm sander I set up. So I wanted to pull this apart and show you really quick. I went ahead and used it as it was without fixing the crack that developed in it when I first adjusted the size. And so far it hasn't opened up anymore. It's worked just fine. It seems to be strong enough. I'm a little bit gentle with it, but it's strong enough. I even dropped it once and it didn't break any farther. You can kind of see down inside of it that I could have cleaned it up a little bit better. There's a spot there that holds on to some of the drywall dust, but you know, for the most part it still works just fine. I don't know, maybe that causes the air to curl around through the pipe faster, who knows. But If we very easily take this thing apart, you can see that it doesn't really leak any dust. The dust all comes right out of the sander and goes right into the shop vac hose. And I'm sure that the biggest part of why it works so good is that inside of the sander is a fan that pulls the air through the holes in the sanding disc and forces it, almost like its own little shop vac that forces it out through the output port. There's usually a cloth sack here that catches the sawdust or the dust from sanding. And you may notice that there's a new sanding pad on this. The original one that was on it came apart as soon as I started using this. You know, it's an older sander and it's got a lot of miles on it. But as you can see, I've used this sandpaper quite a bit, and it really helps with that additional airflow to keep all of the material off of the sandpaper so that it doesn't build up all those hard deposits and shorten the life cycle of the sanding disc. So in the end, I'm going to mark this one down as a win. I'm going to put it in the toolbox with the palm sander, and you know, especially for drywall repairs, this is going to be the perfect thing for keeping the dust down inside the house. So tell me what you think. Leave a comment in the video. If you see something that is obvious that I could improve about it, put that in there too. And obviously, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell so that you are updated with my next video that I put out.